today is going to be a super inspiring story of resilience and overcoming challenges. So please welcome entrepreneur, 2022 Gold Coast Woman of the Year and elite adaptive athlete, Natasha Price. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
So Tash, I want to get to your your story in a minute, but first I just want to kind of get to know, I guess, your life before everything happened and the disease. So what was your life looking like, I guess, before?
Before I became an athlete and before I got sick, my life was very, very different to what it was now. I lived in the UK and I grew up there, although I lived in Spain and America and all over the place. So I'm very lucky. I've traveled a lot. I owned a pub with my ex-partner. I was also working in a law firm as a legal executive. So things were very, very, very different. Life was all about routine and possibly not living a very passionate, happy life. I was just kind of working the 9 till 5, getting up in the morning and just going through the motions. So yeah, very, very different. I was also a professional dancer, so I would work my weekends dancing, and I guess that was the one part of my life I always loved. So I lived for my weekends. I lived for being able to do that stuff, but very, very different to the person I am now.
Yeah, so you were very athletic, obviously
Yes.
dancing and doing a lot of fitness,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
did you ever want to change career paths? You said you weren't super happy about maybe life at the moment?
It's funny. I like I said, my whole life I wanted to be a lawyer, but when I actually got there, I found that the profession wasn't what I expected it to be. I imagined it to be all truth and justice and fighting the good fight, but what it ended up being is a lot of paperwork and unfortunately a lot of sexism, and that didn't sit very well with me within the profession itself. So yes, I wanted to change careers, but I didn't really know how to go about it and felt very, very stuck in that life, and to be honest, I wasn't happy. But yeah, I think sometimes it takes huge events and huge changes in your life to get you to make big changes. So yeah.
Yeah, then I guess getting to kind of when everything changed. So it was in 2008 that almost overnight I read you became 99% blind and paralyzed as well. So you didn't even know that you had that disease at the time as well. But I just want to ask, how was that finding out?
So, I mean, obviously it was a very scary thing to happen. I literally went to bed on Boxing Day 2008, on Christmas Day 2008, woke up the next morning, couldn't see anything out of my right eye. Within a week I couldn't see anything out of my left eye. Within a month from that I lost all feeling from the waist down, and at that point they had no idea what was going on with me. I hadn't even known that there was any kind of illness or anything there that would potentially cause symptoms like this. It took many, many months of testing and being poked and prodded by doctors before they figured things out. And at the time I was told I'd probably only have 5 years to live. And being hit by a fact like that, it takes your breath away, and it certainly makes you reevaluate a lot of things in life. I think that's what the biggest change for me was, trying to decide what am I going to do with the rest of my life. And it took me a very, very long time to figure out that despite disability and despite the illnesses I have, I can actually still have some kind of life. It just has to be very, very different to what I was previously living. And because of that, I've managed to find passion and purpose and determination that I never had before. And it's made me a person I can be proud of. So whilst the experience itself sucked, it's made me the person who I am today. So I wouldn't change a thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So a lot of good things seem to have come out of it.
100%.
Like you said, the doctors, they kind of told you,
Yes.
you have 5 years to live, this is how your life is going to go. So was it about you wanting to maybe prove them wrong, or was it just figuring out what to do at that stage?
No, it was very much about that. I spent the best part of 9 years confined to bed. I wasn't able to get up much. My health was very fluctuating. At times I was completely paralyzed from the neck down, unable to communicate and unable to do anything for myself. I was relying on others to take me to the toilet, to wash me, to feed me. And I think that very much changes your perspective on life. And anyway, my medical team had told me I could expect to be like that forever. That was just going to be it until eventually I'd pass away. And when people that are supposed to have your back tell you things like that, it kind of gets in your head, and you believe that. You think, well, I can't do anything, so I'm just going to accept things. And I wasn't unhappy. I was very, very accepting, and I've always dealt with things with humor. That's just me. But I was also, I guess, not pushing myself in the way I should have. And yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is I got to a point where I was like, do you know what? I want to make these changes. I need to have more. It's been 9 years of doing nothing. And I need to show that I'm capable of more, and show other people with disabilities and other people that have had these huge changes in their life that actually there is more. There is something beyond illness. There is something beyond disability. And there is for a lot of people. You just need the tools and the support network to be able to make those changes, because they're not easy. They're not easy at all.
Yeah, I do want to ask quickly about what you kind of said, like, I guess at the start of that answer, where you had like people kind of getting in your head and telling you what your life was going to be like. Like, what was like the biggest, like, I guess, challenge at that point? Like, was it the mental battle? Was it the physical battle? Like,
it's the mental battle. It's always the mental battle with anything, any challenge we take on. The body is capable of what the mind tells it, and I think trying to convince myself that actually I am able to do these things, I just have to figure out how, was definitely the biggest challenge, and that took a lot of work. You have to find a place where you're confident and you don't doubt yourself and you don't doubt your abilities, and don't necessarily listen to the little voices in the back of your head, and also the little voices from the people that are telling you can't, and just say, do you know what? I'm not listening. I'm going to try anyway. Even if you think I can't do it, and if I think I can't do it, I'm going to do it anyway, and just give it a go. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But at least you know you've given it your all.
yeah. I'm just thinking, like, your mindset, like, you just seem to always be like, I'm going to prove, the doctor's wrong, like, I'm going to get out of this situation. Like, and you were talking before as well, like, when you were younger, you seemed to always be standing up for what you believed in. And I guess kind of doing that same thing. Like, do you think that mindset that you had came from, like, you already kind of had that? Or did you have to kind of learn that?
No, I think it's something that's very natural in me. I've always been that way. I think there's been periods in my life where I've perhaps lost a little bit of that, but I've always managed to claw it back from somewhere and figure it back out for myself. And for some people, it's a learned thing, but if you can learn that skill, you can get so much more out of life. It's one of the most important things we can do for ourselves, for our own mental health, and for ourselves as humans, so that we can be so much more than we think we can be. If you can find that little thing that pushes you, it's the experience will be epic.
Yeah. But I did want to kind of like now go to you moving to Australia. So that was in 2010. But like, why did you make that move?
When I was in my early 20s, I came traveling around Oz. I backpacked around the whole country and loved every single second of it. I fell in love with Australia, and I was like, do you know what? I have to move there one day. So I went back to the UK and persuaded my entire family, my mum, my dad, and my younger sister, that we are all going to move to Australia. That's what we're going to do. So we made all the arrangements, got the visas, and found ourselves all here together. And so I'm very, very lucky. My sister lives 10 minutes away, and I'm with my parents, and life's good. I'm very, very lucky.
Wow. But so that was like after everything had kind of happened in 2008. So you were always going to make that move, like, no matter what?
Yeah. So my parents moved here, and my sister moved here in 2007. I came here on a holiday visa at that point, because I'd been unable to sort my full-time visa. And I went back to the UK to take my youngest sister back to finish her schooling. And when we were back there doing that, that's when I got ill and everything happened. Okay. And then it took a very long time for me to get to a point where I was allowed to travel again. But it was a tough fight, but it was worth it.
Yeah, it was great. It's great that you're here now.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do want to ask, so I know that you were very kind of sporty before everything happened, as a kid, a teen, in your adult years as well. But like, when you were going through everything, like, what role was like sport playing in your life? Were you trying to get back into sport?
It took me a very, very long time to realize that getting back into sport was what I really needed. And it wasn't until I saw the wheelchair racer Kurt Fernley on the TV doing Gold Coast Marathon in 2018 that I was like, 2017, that I was like, do you know what? I really, really want to try and do something like that. I think my parents thought I was crazy. At the time, I couldn't even get myself out of bed, let alone do a marathon. But there was just something that really, really inspired me about what he was doing and about the way the commentators were talking about him on TV. And I was like, yeah, there's people out there with disabilities that are achieving incredible things.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm in a different place with my health right now, but that's where I want to go. That's where I want to be. And it really inspired me to get back into sport. And would have been 12 months almost to the day. I did my first Gold Coast Marathon.
Wow.
When I got myself a racing wheelchair, I'd only had it for 6 weeks before the marathon, and went out and did it. It took me over 6 hours. I pulled my thumbnails off. I gave myself burns on my arms. I had a flat tire. Just everything that could go wrong went wrong. But I cried my eyes out when I got to that finish line, because the feeling was like nothing I'd ever experienced before. To know that 12 months prior to that, I couldn't even wipe my own bum, let alone anything else. To be able to get over a finish line of a 42-kilometer marathon was, it was a next level feeling, and that's what inspired me to do all these things that I'm doing now.
Well, yeah, that must have been amazing, and to like think of everything that you have like accomplished now. But like, what was it? Were you always thinking, like, after you saw Kurt, were you like, I'm gonna do marathons? Like, this is for me. Did you know?
Yes, yeah, 100%. It's exactly what I wanted to do. I didn't want to do track racing. There was just something about marathon, and I think it was I want to prove what I'm capable of, and I think that's what drove me. I want to prove to myself that I can do it, and I want to prove to the people that didn't believe that it was possible that there is possibility out there for anyone with a disability. So yeah.
But you did say it was like only a short time, I guess, between getting your first chair and like
Yes.
racing. But like, what was that time like, getting used to the sport?
It was I went into the marathon really not knowing what I was doing. I had no clue. I'd never even met a wheelchair racer before. I got in that chair and I was winging it the whole time. I had no idea how to control it, what to do with it. But it's, once again, it comes back to the power of the mind. You just make yourself do these things, because the best way of learning is to just do. So, and I was very, very lucky that at the marathon I met a lot of the elite racers.
Okay.
And things snowballed for me from there. From that event, I went to a training camp. At the training camp, I met people who introduced me to my coach, and the rest is history. So it was that one thing changed my life. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It was just that. But I guess like you're kind of maybe like branching out a little bit more now. Like, are you planning to do like more sports, or is like, marathon just kind of what you want to focus on?
I'm all over the place. So I've left marathon behind. Unfortunately, my health got to a point where I couldn't do it anymore. So I moved what essentially many people would say backwards by going to a shorter distance, but I started sprinting, doing 100, 200, 400 meters, and came away with the Queensland record in the 1 and 400. Absolutely loved it, but so many issues with my racing wheelchair, and I needed to get thousands to get problems fixed, so I made the decision to leave that behind a little bit now.
Okay.
I will still continue, but not to the same level. Instead, I took on CrossFit, and ended up coming fourth in the world at the CrossFit Games, and I'd only been training for it for a couple of months. I guess fitness in one area can translate into another. I'm also taking part in High Rocks, which is a good mix between racing and functional fitness, and I've just moved into powerlifting, and I'm trying to make hopefully the Commonwealth Games and Paralympics coming up. So we'll see. I've got the strength. I've just got to work on the technique in the next sort of couple of years and see how that goes.
Yeah. What are you loving about powerlifting?
It's so empowering. I think as a female, it's good to feel strong and like you can handle yourself, and just also as a person with a disability, having that level of strength to be able to get around and just do things that I could never have previously even dreamt of. It makes a huge difference. It's very functional, having that strength, and it's been life-changing for me.
So it seems like now you are a real advocate like for people with a disability. I mean, you've written a book. I love like looking at your Instagram when you share your journey a lot. And you've started up Invincible as well. So like why is it so important to you that you get to bring awareness to it all?
I don't want anyone to ever feel like they have no place in the world and like they don't know where to turn because of their situation that they can do nothing about. So disability is something that can happen to anyone at any time and will affect most people at some point in their lives. I want to show that yes, these changes can happen, but change isn't necessarily a bad thing. It just means you do things in a different way. And it's really, really important to me that that's seen not just by the disabled community themselves, but by everybody, so that they realize how important inclusion is overall, because, you know, without an inclusive society, none of us can do anything we really want to do.
Yeah, that's true. Well, it is great to see you doing this and standing up for it all. But
thank you.
I wanted to ask if you could like explain a bit about Invincible, which is something that you started up.
Yep. So Invincible is a social enterprise. We work, I guess, two sides of the same coin. So we are out there doing advocacy and inclusion and diversity training and accessibility consulting as a way to obviously tackle the issue of inaccessibility and lack of inclusion in society, to make the world a better place for people with disabilities. We also, on the other side of the coin though, we do motivational training, resilience training, passion and purpose, to show that people with disabilities, we're just like anybody else. We can go out, we can be motivated, we can be resilient, and we're hoping that by people learning from us and seeing that on a day-to-day basis, that they're more accepting of disability and what we as disabled people can offer society. So, yeah.
Well, great to see all the work you're doing.
Thank you.
I'm just kind of getting to the end. I've got a couple more things to ask, but I saw recently also on your Instagram, you put up some photos of yourself, like kind of before like all of this happened, I think around 2008 at that time. But like, how does it make you feel, like looking back at those photos, like a completely different like version of yourself?
It's so weird because back in those days, I was 100% blind. I couldn't see the difference between night and day. So I never really got to see myself like that at all. And it's not now until I look back at it and I feel like it wasn't me. Like that person wasn't me. And I find it very, very hard to relate to the person that I see in the picture. I, however, can feel the feelings that I was feeling at the time and how hard it was for me to get around and the struggles that I was facing. But I think it was probably a good thing that I couldn't see how I'd got because, you know, as you know from the photos, I'd put a lot of weight on from the steroid treatments. I'd lost my hair from the chemotherapy, and there was a lot of challenges there. I've had eating disorders in the past as a teenager. And I think for me that probably would have been something far more difficult to deal with had I have actually been able to see how I looked. Yeah, aesthetics aren't important. How you look isn't important. It doesn't matter. In the greater scheme of things, it doesn't matter. But I think the mindset I had back then, it probably would have gotten to me a lot. So I'm kind of glad that I couldn't.
Yeah, it might be a bit of like a silly question, but do you find that you have to kind of, I guess, forget about those times? Like, do you try to put that behind you, or do you try to almost embrace it a bit, like showing how far you've came?
So for me, I think you gain nothing from being focused on the past. The past is the past. Focusing on the present and what you can be moving forward is really important. However, it's important to learn and grow from the experiences you've had. So you have to reflect on it, but so long as you're reflecting on the past as a way of learning rather than as a way of dwelling on the things that have changed, you can't do anything about what's changed. Nothing, you know, that's life. Life will change, but use that to grow, use that to propel you forwards and turn you into the person you want to be. So, yeah.
Well, that is great advice. And just last, sport seems like it's just been, you know, a massive part of your life, and it's helped you to obviously get to where you are now and what you're doing. So I wanted to ask, what has sport given you just in your life?
Sport has given me community. It's given me a positive perspective. It's given me education. I've learned so much from, especially within the disabled sports community, so much from the people around me. It's given me focus. Sport is such a leveler of people. It's a way of everybody being on this even playing field. Okay, you've got different abilities within the sporting arena, but we're all trying to achieve the same thing. Yeah. We're all out there to support each other, to compete in a healthy way, but it's, I don't think people often appreciate just how life-changing sport is and what a positive experience it can be, because it gives you something to focus on outside of, you know, the daily grind and
Yeah.
the little noises we can hear on the outside. So yeah.
Thank you so much for this interview. It was so
That's
great
all
to chat
right.
to you.
It was great to do it.